Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for being here for another episode of the Stay Healthy at Home webinar series. I will give everybody just a couple moments to get settled in and to sign on this rainy Tuesday. We are here with a very special guest presenter. I see folks are coming in. Okay, so my name is Ashley Ritchie, and I'm the director of the New Jersey Self-Advocacy Project, which is a program of the ARC of New Jersey. We are joined today by a talented guest presenter and a fellow colleague from the ARC of New Jersey, Andrea Buccelli. Before we begin, please remember that transcription is enabled. So you should be able to see what I'm saying. If you do not see the transcription, you can click on More on your Zoom control panel and Captions, and then opt to show captions or hide captions based on your preference. I also want to remind everybody that the chat box is located on your Zoom control panel. If you have questions, comments, or feedback throughout today's session, please feel free to type your comments in the chat box, and we will be sure to address the questions at the end of this presentation during Q&A, or get back to you with an answer as soon as possible. And without further ado, I would like to introduce Andrea Buccelli, who serves as Director of Training and Consultation Services here at the ARC of New Jersey. Andrea brings experience in the supported employment field for people with intellectual, developmental, and other disabilities as an employment specialist, vocational evaluator, and program manager of employment services for the deaf and hard of hearing. Andrea offers various trainings through TCS, specifically designed to provide staff training to supported employment providers, support coordinators, self-advocates, families, and schools throughout the state of New Jersey. Andrea's trainings are offered through a variety of settings, from larger classrooms, small groups, one-on-one consults, webinars, and more. Training and Consultation Services, also known as TCS, is specialized in customized options developed to meet various training needs. And we are so delighted Andrea is here today. Andrea, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ashley. Thanks, Ashley, and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me on this rainy Tuesday, but hopefully everybody is dry and safe and ready to go. So as Ashley said, my name is Andrea Buccelli. I am the Director of Training and Consultation Services for Supported Employment with the ARC of New Jersey. And today I'm bringing you a webinar based on what employers value when hiring individuals, any individuals, whether they have intellectual or developmental disabilities or not. These are values that employers hold during the entire hiring process. So just a quick overview of today's webinar. We'll be doing a review of a technical report titled Strategies Used by Employment Service Providers in the Job Development Process. Are they consistent with what employers want and what employers are looking for? So this will consist of a discussion based on relationship building within the community and identifying employer perspectives and values during the recruitment phase, the hiring phase, and career advancement in the field. So the purpose of this study was conducted on a focus group of supported employment professionals, employment service providers, and businesses in the local communities. And they addressed the practices that the job coaches and the employment service providers were doing and what the employers looked for, and they wanted to see if there was any overlap or any consistencies in these areas. And if there weren't, there are ideas and there are implications for self-advocates, for employment service professionals, and also for the businesses themselves. So what we'll be focusing on today is what the employers in the study identified as valuable and ways that individuals or job coaches or people supporting individuals looking for work can incorporate into their values and into their practices to make it more consistent with what employers are looking for. So before we get started, I'm going to launch a quick poll just to see who's joining us today, whether you're an individual with an intellectual or developmental disability, if you're a friend or family member or a service professional. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that poll just so I can see who's joining us today. I'll give just a few more seconds. So it looks like we have a good mix of people today. We have people that are friends or family members of individuals with disabilities. We have some service professionals in the training, and we also have representatives of state services, whether it's DDD, Division of Developmental Disabilities, Division of Vocational Rehab, Department of Labor. So we have a good mix of people today. So thank you for sharing that with me. And without further ado, I will continue with the presentation with another quick poll. So I would like to know what you think that employers find the most valuable during their recruitment process. Is it how hard an individual can work, how much experience they bring to the position, how the applicant will add value to the business, or if the applicant has a job coach? So I'm going to go ahead and launch that poll as well, and you can let me know what you think kind of as our pre-test today. I'll give just a few more seconds there. All right, looks like we got everybody in. So I'm going to share these results with you. So we have a good mix. And while these are all things that employers look for and that employers are considering when hiring and recruiting people, what the employers of this report and of this survey highlighted as the most valuable was how the applicant is going to add value to their business. So we'll be going over that further throughout this presentation. So the biggest overarching theme of the study, when looking at both the strategies of the job seekers and the values of the employers and the businesses, was developing and maintaining relationships. So where do we start this? How do we start with developing these relationships? You can start these relationships by attending local Chamber of Commerce meetings, hosting open houses for employers if you are in a supported employment agency, or simply by being loyal customers. We'll discuss a little bit further, I think, on the next slide, more about employer-centered marketing. But this is going as a customer, returning as a happy customer, and then returning as a partner is a great way to start developing relationships in your community. Another way to develop and maintain strong relationships is to focus on trust and credibility. These are key values that the employers of this study held when they were discussing relationship building. Employers want their partners, whether it's an applicant, a job coach, their employees, their other business partners, they want them to be credible resources. They want you to do what you say you're going to do, what you claim you're going to do, and they want you to do it well. So they want people that are going to address the bottom line and show that how deciding to hire you or your client or your friend or your family member is going to save them time, how it's going to save them money, and how it's going to improve their business functions. Now, many employers are going to require more information and knowledge regarding working with somebody that has a disability and what that might entail, whether it's working with a job coach, what accommodations might be needed, if there are any legal requirements, and more. So employers in this study specifically, they did express some fears and misunderstandings, some apprehension around the laws regarding disability and employment. And this stems from the misconception of the laws and misunderstandings of the laws. So having somebody that's going to support the employer and that's going to provide them with the knowledge in a way that's going to calm the fears and provide them with the knowledge will not only help you, your consumer, your friend, or your family member get the position, but it's also a really great way to continue to develop strong and long-lasting relationships with employers, whether you end up employed at that company or not. You want to come as a partner and you want to be a resource. You want to be your own advocate or your consumer's advocate or your friend or your family member's advocate with employers by providing them with the information and by selling yourself or your consumer, your friend, your family member. You want to sell them as an integral part of the team, as somebody that's going to address specific business needs and be a contribution to the business's return on investment. So this ROI, this return on investment, was one of the things that the employers and the businesses highlighted as very highly valuable, but the job coaches of the study didn't address in their practices. So by being able to highlight the areas of the benefits of hiring individuals with disabilities and providing the numbers, the facts, and that hard evidence, businesses are going to feel extremely confident in bringing you on board. So employer-centered marketing, this focuses on how our services or how hiring you is going to meet a specific business need. We want to propose ourselves or propose our consumers, our friends, our family members as a solution to their needs if strengths, skills, and abilities match that specific need. So you want to go in with having the goal of developing relationships and developing opportunities with businesses and with employers instead of specific job openings. So by networking and by being a customer first, the employers are going to be your biggest asset in this phase. In addition to addressing the business's bottom line, you also want to put yourself in a business role when developing with employers. You want to be a consultant of their needs and what you can provide to resolve them. And remember the importance of warm contact. Again, be a customer first, return as a happy customer, and then come back as a partner to be able to meet their needs. When we approach employers, we want to make sure that we are using common language. There are terms in the supported employment field that might make sense to us, but there are more relatable terms that we can use in the business world, such as instead of job carving, coming in and saying we can carve out a job, we can explain that as restructuring a position. Or instead of community-based work evaluations or vocational assessments, all these kind of fancy supported employment terms, we can discuss them as determining work skills or career goals. You want to discuss features and benefits. A feature is a fact about you or a fact about your service, and a benefit is what's in it for the business. So this ultimately means that a benefit to the business is only going to occur when your feature or when your service, your asset, meets that specific business need. So as a job seeker or as a job coach, there are two areas of needs that we need to fulfill. We have the job seeker needs, which is somebody that's looking for a job that leads to community integration, income, and independence. And then we have the employer needs. Employers are looking for reliable and consistent employees. So what we provide either as individuals looking for work, or if you work with a job coach as a job seeker, we're providing skills, we're providing experience and abilities. And when working with job coaches, they can also provide career planning, job development, and different skills trainings. What you provide the employer is you're understanding the employer's needs. You're providing the employer those resources that we discussed a few slides ago, and you're also providing that knowledge and that information of disability employment. And if you're working with a job coach, that job coach is going to offer further hiring support, training assistance, and job accommodations. So by providing these services, we help bridge the gap between those needs. And what we get is meaningful, individualized careers for those seeking out employment and a diversified, productive workplace for employers and for businesses. So in the recruiting phase, there are many different things that employers are going to value during the recruitment process. And one thing that these businesses highlighted as the most highly valuable and the most persuasive was demonstrating how the applicant is going to address the business's bottom line. That is what's going to save the business time and what's going to save the business money. To help this, you're going to want to know what needs do the business have and how are you going to address them. So we can do this again by practicing that employer-centered marketing we've discussed so far. You want to learn more about the specific needs that the businesses hold and explain how your skills or your consumer skills or your friend or your family member's skills and abilities and work experience is going to assist in resolving those specific needs. So the recruitment strategies highlighted by the job coaches and the advocates in the study were as follows. So they were networking with colleagues, with former employees. They were going out to local businesses. They're identifying shared interests, kind of developing that personal relationship, learning and understanding and using that business language, and selling the benefits of hiring individuals with disabilities. And while those things might be and usually are beneficial, what these employers in the study were looking for was attaining visible commitment. They want to demonstrate how applicants are going to add value to the business's bottom line, and they want to see testimonials that documents performance. So what we can do to meet these employers' needs is we can focus on adding value. As we discussed with the developing and strengthening relationships, we can continue to maximize and expand those relationships, and we could provide specific answers to specific hiring needs. We want to expand, we want to maximize and learn about those needs, and we want to focus on expanding those relationships and to learn more about the needs rather than selling the concept of hiring individuals that have an intellectual or developmental disability. So those were the things that the businesses in the study highlighted during the recruitment phase. During the hiring phase, something that many job coaches in the study highlighted, the strategies that they highlighted during this phase was focused from the perspective of the individual with the disability, or what they called the customer side of the equation, where employers held a different perspective. They focused on the demand side, is a term I'll be using further in the presentation. So they were holding a different perspective, which was the business perspective. So as we've talked so far today, it's important to remember that employers make their decisions when they're hiring based on matching skills and abilities to specific business needs. They want to know how hiring any individual is going to generate a profit for the business and how they're going to present a hiring solution to address those needs. And the disclosure of disability and accommodation needs was highlighted as incredibly valuable to the businesses and the employers of the survey. And they also gave a little insight that the key to frame this in a way that the accommodation is going to focus on how it will enhance productivity and improve business functions and performance. This is going to emphasize a mutually beneficial outcome for both the job seeker and for the business as well. And again, businesses often are going to hold a lack of knowledge when working with individuals with disabilities, but they have also stated that they really value the value that they hold in an open and honest relationship in which there's a mutual understanding of the needs of the individuals that they'll be hiring, which is going to allow them the opportunity to learn more about your needs and to learn more about your needs as an individual with a disability and what you will need to do to be able to reach that level of success, so that level of disclosure. And just to add to this too, the employers in this study highlighted that they care. They care about the needs, they care about your needs, and they care about your safety and the things that they can do to bring you to that highest level of success while protecting your safety and the safety of the others on the job as well. So the strategies that the job coaches and the advocates highlighted in this study was that they're looking for a positive office culture. They're cold calling places, they're waiting for that turnover to happen. Again, they're taking more personal approaches to developing relationships. They're preparing the employer for the job coach's role instead of the role of the consumer or the role of the applicant. A lot of the job coaches were developing for more generic jobs and generic roles. And they were selling their agency, they were selling their services, and they're selling the individuals with the disability. And again, while some of those might be beneficial in some cases, the employers of this study highlighted that they're looking for evidence of the applicant's performance, Again, they're looking for those testimonials, those recommendations from other personnel. They're looking for that work experience, some third-party assistance, and hiring solutions. So we'll dive more into those a little bit later as well. In a way that we can meet those needs, we can focus on, again, the demand side intervention. We can focus on stimulating demand by presenting yourself or your consumer, your friend, your family member in a way that they're a hiring solution that is meeting that specific business need. And then career advancement. So the best way to achieve career success and advancement is by being a credible employee. So if we circle back to our discussion earlier about doing what you promised to do, as you keep this promise and as you become a long-term employee, you're going to continue to bring value to the business by reducing turnover rates. You're going to avoid the expensive costs that comes with hiring and training new employees, and you're going to maintain useful knowledge and experience in the company. And as an individual with a disability specifically becomes a long-term employee, you're going to continue to add even more value to that company by offering diverse approaches to delivering success, which is going to directly address the value-focused approach that we've discussed today. And ultimately, that's what provides that return on investment. So these are some of the strategies that the job coaches and the advocates we're currently using. They're following up and providing job coaching assistance on the job. They're facilitating those natural supports, providing ongoing support for identifying accommodations and supports, and their problem solving. And again, all of those are really great strategies, but employers were looking for some more. Employers were looking for assistance with appraisals. That's your yearly performance, your 90-day performance appraisal to check in and see how things are going. They're looking for, again, that follow-up communication, coaching support for supervisors and for people on the management level. They want to reduce staff turnover. Again, they're really looking for that return on investment that we've discussed so far today. And they're looking for information and resources regarding disability policies and accommodations, because we've discussed that a lot of times we meet people and they've never worked with somebody that has a disability before. So it's important to advocate for yourself and the things that you are entitled to and that you are requesting. So some things that we can do to meet employer needs are to maximize those employee benefits to the business, to provide that job retention support. So job retention and career advancement is going to help to reduce the business cost. That's going to decrease turnover, and it's even going to open doors for other applicants in the future as well. And when we understand that the services we provide in post-placement or in this career advancement setting, if we understand that it's an element of customer service, we're going to be able to solidify our relationships with these businesses and with these employers in the long run. So I'd like to discuss too, I want to touch on disability confidence. So disability confidence is an ideology that was initiated in the UK as a campaign to help companies become more willing to employ staff with disabilities. Disability confidence is defined as a way to know how to make adjustments to the workplace, to be able to retain individuals with disabilities, to be able to make changes to the recruitment process to ensure a level playing field for everybody, and also to deliver accessible customer service towards their customers that have disabilities as well. So when you're working with companies or if you're assisting them with developing their disability confidence, this is important to do because without it, we talked about the employers lacking the knowledge, the understanding, and the implementation of developing an inclusive and accessible workforce. So by being an advocate for yourself, by being an advocate for your consumer, your friend, your family member, there are different ways that you can encourage employers to incorporate this ideology into their workplaces. So ways to do that includes providing reasons, so providing a rational approach to identify different relevant factors, providing research to back up your reason with relevant data, to provide representational redescription, so be able to provide representation in several different forms as they reinforce each other, like evidence, stories of success, and the like. resources and rewards, people tend to be more open to ideas and new ideas if there are resources that they can draw upon and draw for help as assistance is needed. Having access to real-world events such as National Disability Employment Awareness Month, which is what we're celebrating in October, Disability Pride and other events, and resistances, also understanding what resistances may arise and being able to empathize with them while still working towards your goal. So a few strategies that work when educating employers on this disability confidence and the importance of inclusion is understanding organizational leadership. So companies that have strong leadership that value diversity and working with communities at large value things, such as building interpersonal relationships, personal experiences from colleagues with disabilities, and how that's going to help with changing any stigma or any stereotypes is going to help you to develop trust between management and staff at all levels. So by finding companies that highlight these values in their leadership is going to provide you to a great path towards a supportive and inclusive work environment. Again, that third-party assistance that we touched on before, having somebody that's able to introduce them to and to provide them with support throughout the process of hiring and training and working with an individual that has a disability is one of the most persuasive measures that these employers had highlighted. And it's important to note too, that this can look like a job coach or support coordinator that's going to provide assistance or information or support, or even partnering with the departments such as training consultation services, or maybe even project hire at the ARC of New Jersey that's going to be able to provide this information to employers. If you feel that ongoing support might be beneficial, a job coach might be a great resource for you to touch upon, but it's not the only way. You are definitely able, there are resources out there for you to be able to be your own self-advocate and to get this information out to employers. Having those resources to provide employers on information with how to hire, support, and provide training for yourself or for just people with disabilities in general. This provided employers and their staff with the knowledge, experience, and comfort when working with individuals that might have intellectual or developmental disabilities. Employers in these studies also placed high value in hiring employees that had that previous work experience, like I had mentioned a couple slides ago, but they went on to explain that this doesn't have to be work experience or specific tasks that have been performed, but also in soft skills as well. And arguably more importantly, they highlighted, such as understanding supervision, relating to other employees, developing relationships, and things of this like. They also stress the quality when working with support employment programs. They emphasize the quality of those programs, and developing effective partnerships between the two was highly valuable, especially in providing trainings and support. In the job design, the employers also highlighted the importance of work design and redesign, and they provided great insight into an effective strategy that they'd like to see more of when working with job coaches or with individuals that have disabilities, as they want to move people around. They want to assess and evaluate, and they want to find the right person with the right job that matches their attitudes and interests first, and then train them accordingly. So interestingly enough, another study highlighted that it's more helpful to learn about your interests, your aspirations, and your skills, and then find where you might fit into an organization based on those skills and those interests, instead of just filling a vacancy. So these employers are explaining exactly employer-centered marketing without even realizing it. So it's important to touch on those skills and to hone in on those tools when you're working with employers. And then training for management and supervisors and other staff. So they highlighted a value in training, less of a formal presentation like we're going through today, but more so focusing on the job training for both the consumers and their colleagues. They value informational learning that's going to occur through supportive relationships with peers, a third party like we discussed before, or an advocate that's going to develop a relationship and provide that information. These employers were valuing access to people that can educate them and provide more guidance on improving their understanding of what they should expect when working with individuals with disabilities and what that might entail. And they placed high value in learning opportunities as that are timely and that focus on real workplace events. So again, this is where being your own advocate and providing the resources that you need and that you would find beneficial comes in handy. So when we get into the suggestions, so some suggestions for advocates, whether a self-advocate, a supported employment professional, or friends, family members, there are several different suggestions around improving job development strategies to focus on the values that these employers held. When developing relationships, again, focusing on the trust and the credibility and being a credible source of information for employers. You want to focus on adding value during the recruitment phase. Again, we want to learn about the specific business needs and be able to provide specific answers and resources based on those business needs. And you want to simulate demand, and you want to come as a solution to the individualized needs of these businesses. And key things to remember when trying to work around any challenges in this phase of supported employment is to shift the attention and shift the focus towards the demand side of the equation, of the employment equation, that is. So what do employers need and what are the employer demands? They're looking for factual information that responds to their concerns, and they highlighted these as such. So disclosing and framing accommodation needs, how we're going to address health and safety on the job. They want to know if there's a mutual understanding of the duty of care that the employer holds for all employees. They want resources around the laws and regulations and best practices in ways that are going to ease nerves. And arguably most important of all, how are you going to add that value to the business? And knowing that the evidence shows that employers need to know more about the myths, the issues, and the possibilities of disability employment, along with the considerable amount of those who also want to know more about these things, is going to help you to make your advocacy that much stronger. By shifting our conversation with employers from one based on anxiety or uncertainty towards the confidence and the advantages of diversity, there's going to be so much potential in building on those relationships, developing those possibilities for yourself, for your consumers, for your friends or family members, and you'll be able to continue to spread disability and diversity awareness and disability confidence throughout. So those are our suggestions, or the suggestions of the employers for the advocates, for the self-advocates, or for the job coaches and those alike. There were also several suggestions for employers as well. And as advocates, there are things that we can do to support them in achieving these suggestions and achieving these goals. And that is, again, helping them to develop that disability confidence. What we can do is we can connect with employers, we can provide resources, and we can encourage them to take advantage of these resources and of the opportunities, especially focusing on smaller companies that might be more out of touch with this awareness and the resources that are available to them. Connecting employers to networks that are going to provide more support and resources that are targeted specifically for businesses and employers, and that business-to-business advice and information. So some resources in New Jersey include the New Jersey Business and Industry Association, Ask Earn, and the Ticket to Work helpline is going to help you to identify which network might be right for you. And that's what this little infographic is here too. This is a screen grab from the Ticket to Work website on which employment network is right for that employer. And then providing employers with information regarding training events and organizations in these areas is going to continue to develop your relationships throughout the community while encouraging education and resource sharing with employers. So again, the bottom line is the bottom line. Employers are going to value time and money, and they want to know how you are going to do that. And so just a quick wrap-up poll. What do you think that employers find the most valuable when hiring new employees? Is it if the applicant's skill matches their business needs, if the applicant adds value to the business, if the applicant is able to develop a strong relationship with the business, or all of the above? So I'm going to launch that poll for everybody. Looks like we have just a few more people getting ready to answer the poll. Give another minute or so. So I think I tricked you guys a little bit on this one. I got a 50-50 answer. So we were looking for what employers find the most valuable when hiring a new employee. And they're looking for all of these things. All of these things are equally as valuable to employers when they're hiring individuals with or without developmental disabilities. This is what their values are in hiring as a whole. So to sum it all up, we want to make sure we're focusing on that trust and that credibility when building relationships. It's important to develop that trust and establish that credibility with employers. And you can do this again by identifying those business needs and present yourself, your consumer, or your friend or family member as a business solution. And you're going to end up developing those really solid relationships when you're able to add value to the businesses. Like recruiting, it's imperative to add value to the business. Become a valued resource to employers by addressing specific needs when developing relationships, interviewing, and ultimately joining the team. You want to focus on simulating that demand and providing solutions to specific needs of these businesses. And long-term commitments to employment are really valuable considerations in the employment process. Job retention, career development, and the ability to reduce cost, decrease turnover, and open doors to a more diversified field are all key takeaways to highlight and consider when discussing career advancement and employment. So with that being said, I'd like to open it up to some questions. I do have a couple more slides. This is my contact information. And then Ashley had mentioned before, I offer several trainings for professionals offered through my department. So this includes all stages of the supported employment process. So job development, pre-employment, job coaching, long-term follow-along techniques and strategies, training on task analysis. I provide a really in-depth supported employment documentation training. And then for management and for supervisory levels of professionals, I offer a training on developing an orientation and training process for staff, practical skills for managing a supported employment department, and program efficiency trainings. And then I also offer trainings for individuals and family members offered through my department, such as employment options for individuals with disabilities, ways to navigate the employment services for adults, employment resources for individuals and families, and what to expect from supported employment providers. So again, I invite any questions or comments. We have some time for discussion if anybody would like to discuss anything or elaborate on anything further.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. So I see that we have a question in the Q&A. Yeah, I wonder if you're describing supported employment. You know, someone said people working together, someone helps you. You know, that's kind of supported employment in a nutshell, right? And we want to make sure that folks have exactly the right amount of support that they need to do the jobs that they're hired for. Yeah, and I'm wondering if anybody else has questions, comments, anything they'd like to share. Don't be shy. You can type it in the chat or you can use the raise hand button on your Zoom control panel. Andrea, in the meantime, is there any advice you can give to staff or parents to help them prepare to support someone that someone with a disability that they know, someone in their family, to kind of get into a competitive employment environment?
Yeah, I think the conversation should really start based around the individual's interests, what they like, what they find interesting. People always have big dreams and big goals. I've worked with people that started and they wanted to work as a veterinarian. And of course, we know that takes a lot of time, a lot of schooling, a lot of skills, but I don't want that to discourage anybody. And I didn't want that to discourage my client. So where I started that conversation was, well, what do you like about veterinarians? And that individual liked working with animals. So then we started more entry level positions. Where can we start that's going to help you get to that long-term goal of being a veterinarian? Or one was being a graphic designer. What are some entry level areas we can start as? For the client that wanted to be a veterinarian, it was working with animals. So we started in a PetSmart. And then they found out that they enjoyed grooming and taking care of animals and giving them baths. So then they moved into the grooming department of that PetSmart, or that whichever pet store it was. So really getting more information on what their dreams are, what their goals are. It could be a dream as big as being the president of the United States, and then framing it as, what do you like about being the president of the United States? You like talking to people, you like helping people, you like working with people. Maybe you'd like volunteering, and seeing where we can kind of narrow that down into a more entry level position on maybe one day getting a higher level position. So I think that big dreams shouldn't be scary. They should be really inspiring, and you should be able to break it down into smaller and manageable steps. If you have this big goal, what's the first step we can take to get there? And that might be a volunteer assignment. That might be volunteering at the animal shelter, or it might be taking a graphic design introduction course and going from there. So I think that's something that a lot of families have found really beneficial, is not to back away from those big goals and those big dreams, and to be able to break it down into smaller and more manageable steps, which really is the key of supported employment.
Thank you for that. A lot of good tips in there for sure. So Andrea, I know that you have an evaluation form.
I do,
And
yes.
did you want to kind of just walk through how folks can access that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to get out of my presentation. And so what I'm going to do, I'll drop this link in the chat, but I'll also walk you through how to access it and how to walk through it. So what you'll do is you'll click that link just like I just did. And then it takes you to this really simple, really easy Google form. So then you're going to go through and answer the different questions that I have. You're going to let me know how your knowledge was, what you would rate your knowledge before the training, if you feel that your knowledge on the topic improved after the training. And then you're going to let me know if the objectives were clear, if you liked the structure of the training, if it exposed you to new knowledge and new practices, if I was easy to understand, if I was enthusiastic, if you thought I was knowledgeable, if you felt that the polls and the different materials in the training were beneficial, if you'd recommend it to somebody in your field or your friends or your other family members. You're going to let me know if this is the worst training or the worst webinar you've ever been forced to sit through, or if you helped you so incredibly much and you can't wait for the next one. And then any other information you'd like to share with me. I really appreciate all candid and all feedback, all responses. I do have a monthly newsletter that I send out. So if you would like to receive a newsletter, click yes, and you could give me your email down here, and I'd be happy to sign you up for that. And likewise, I can offer credit for this training. I could send you a certificate of attendance. So if you put your name and your email here, or you can reach out to me through my email address, which I can also drop into the chat, I'd be happy to get you that as well. So that's my email and my website that you can reach out to me through as well.
Thank you so much, Andrea. So the form is highlighted in blue in the chat. And then, of course, you can grab Andrea's email address and the link to the Training and Consultation Services website.
Yeah, I'll make it easier. I think you can't click that one, but you'll be able to click my website directly. or not. I thought you'd be able to, but now you have it in a couple different places, so you'll be able to reach out to me, no problem.
That's right. And folks can also access it through the ARC of New Jersey homepage. Is that correct?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Under the programs tab, my website's linked there too.
Perfect. All right. Well, Andrea, thank you so much again for sharing your expertise with everyone today. And as always, thank you all for supporting the Stay Healthy at Home webinar series. We appreciate you being here today. And if you are interested in registering for an upcoming session, you can check your inbox because you're all signed up for our email list, or you can visit the New Jersey Self-Advocacy Project homepage. And all of the upcoming topics and dates will be listed there. And Jane, to address your question, the form is located in the chat box. So I'm going to copy that and send that to everyone now. So if you are interested in filling out the evaluation form, it should be lit up in blue in the chat box now. Okay, again, thank you all for being here today. We hope to see you at an upcoming session. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.